So
Welcome to H plus H Connect, the podcast that brings you insights and inspiration to help grow your business, spark your creativity, and strengthen our maker community. I'm Darren Stern, show director for H plus H Americas and a vice president at Coldness Inc. Amy shares her personal experience exhibiting at H plus H Americas, how it helped her build valuable connections across the industry, and why this event is more than just a trade. Show it's a space to discover unexpected partnerships, spark new product ideas, and even launch a book. Speaking of which, we'll also get the inside scoop on Amy's upcoming release, what it took to bring it to life, and how you can get your hands on it. If you're a retailer on the fence or a maker looking to level up, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Welcome, Amy. So glad to have you here on the H&H Connect podcast today. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, but you were telling me earlier, before we actually started recording today, you have exciting news to share with our audience. Why did you join me today on the show? And also, please introduce yourself. Give us the full background.
okay, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm kind of an introvert, but when I do trade shows and things like this, I like to get out and talk about things. So yeah, my exciting news is that I have a new book coming out in December. It's publishing December 2nd. It's called Birth Flower Embroidery, and it's a month by month celebration of floral embroidery. So each month, we can get into this later, but basically it's 26 new floral designs based on birth flowers of every month. And just a little bit about my background. I am trained as an illustrator. My first couple of jobs out of college, I was a product developer and designer for a candy company in Cincinnati. So I was their first illustrator, working on packaging, product design for sequin boxes, ceramics. I designed stuffed animals, anything that you could put candy in or on that would be considered a gift.
So you've had some sweet endeavors, it sounds like. So
it was
really taste everything you were designing for.
Oh, definitely. I had to help with sourcing candies. So that was my first experience going to trade shows. We were actually exhibiting at fancy food trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in the booth, learning a lot, traveling with the salespeople, but also working with factories on development and doing illustrations. It was a super fun time. And then, so after I was there for 6 years in Cincinnati, and then I left there to go to New York. I worked at Old Navy. I was a product designer, designed kids' accessories and some shoes, socks, book, backpacks, bags, all kinds of accessories, dog toys, dog outfits. I was there for 3 years, from 2001 to 2004. And then I think I was just getting burnt out, and I wanted something different. And then Nike, there was an office in our building, and I was talking to somebody there, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go apply for a job at Nike out in Portland. So I came out to Portland in 2004 to work for Nike. I was a sock designer for 11 years, designed sport performance socks and some lifestyle socks, basketball, football, baseball, women's training.
I just learned something new. I did not know that even existed in this world.
Job, yeah.
I hope someone who's listening to this says, who knew that you could be a sock designer?
Yep. Yeah. So I got to work with athletes from the NBA, the NFL, NCAA athletes, college level, high school level. And again, working with factories directly to design the socks and doing consumer insights. We would do fit testing with athletes. So kind of working across different, different areas to gain insights. And then also that those insights would feed the product development and design. And I think, like myself, I think a lot of designers and people that are creative that work for a different corporation, you always have something going on the side, like your own thing that you're working on at night or on the weekend. So I always had something that I was working towards. I wasn't sure exactly what it was. It was mostly illustration and doing some freelance projects. So that's kind of my background. I think all of that background informs what I do today. Like,
How did you end up in so making well, one thing I would say, just a comment, if there's nothing we haven't learned from people who've come to H&H, and we're gonna talk about that, and we won't get too far ahead of ourselves, but creators are going to create. So
can't stop
remembering that,
us.
yes, whether they're your customers, if you're knitters, if you knit, you probably might crochet at some point. If you crochet, you might want to felt. If you felt, you might do some hand embroidery.
Yeah.
And then you might move over to sewing or hand sewing and garment making and cosplay and quilting. And it goes H&H. I think that's been so far our golden chalice or whatever. The guiding light is that we know creators want to create, crafters want to craft, and knowing your customer wants to do probably more than what they see right in front of them. And they may not know what they want to do yet. They just need a little bit of help to find it. But
Yeah.
if you would share everyone. So obviously this book is about embroidery. You said that. So going from making socks, we know it's textiles, right? There's different types of materials going into that, but going from a relatively, we'll say, you have flat art, you had textile, we'll say mass produced art, right? Because there's an art to doing those things. Going over to now this embroidery worlds, we'll call it maybe slow cooking method of crafting, like that leap to this end.
Yeah, so when I left Nike, I left in 2015. It was about 10 years ago now. I was freelancing, doing some projects, and I had taken a workshop to learn how to do embroidery. My grandmother had lived with us, and we always crafted together and did some sewing and like craft projects in our basement, made pine cone wreaths, but we never really did any embroidery. So I had taken an embroidery class at a local college here, and I learned about water soluble stabilizer and how you can embroider on that and tell stories and through stitching. So that kind of sparked my journey into, needle arts and embroidery. Sorry, my dog. And so I think, going from there, I just started exploring embroidery, and I was like, oh, I'm an illustrator. I can draw my own patterns and make embroidery kits for people. So that's kind of like where that experience came from. It's like, I don't think anybody ever is like, I am a color designer and that's all I ever do. There's such, like you said, at H&H, there's so many like crossover crafts, I think. So my crossover crafts are illustration and embroidery. I started making some kits and teaching workshops probably 6 or 7 years ago. Started being able to get into craft fair, like local craft markets and fairs. And then I was also doing some licensing, and I had met, long story short, I'm just kind of getting to where the idea for the book came from. At a licensing show, I met a publisher from Quarto. And she was interested in some of my illustrations, and I had shown some embroidery imagery for like editorial work. Nothing ever happened after that show. And then finally, I was like, I think I need to make a proposal. I need to show them what I want to make. So my first book was a portrait book. It's called Empowered Embroidery. So that was published in 2021. And that sold. And then a few years passed, and I'm getting more and more into embroidery and making kits and floral design. and I had formed my company, Keller Design Co. And all of this was kind of happening at the same time. And Keller is all about creating connections, connecting people to each other and connecting people to creativity. So I came up with this book idea based on my tattoo, which is the birth flowers of, I'm showing David here, my mom, my grandmother, and myself. And I was, doing more floral designs with embroidery and my illustrations. So I thought, I think this would be kind of a cool book. And did some research because I've seen a lot of birth flower products out there. Like I've seen embroidery kit or designs that are birth flowers. There's necklaces and jewelry and everything really be birth flowers, but I couldn't find any books that were like strictly birth flower embroidery, which was a little shocking to me. So I made a proposal to my publisher and it happened pretty quickly. I hadn't even really designed. I think I designed one kit, which was on February, which is my flower, and they accepted it pretty quickly. So I was like, okay, I think we're on to something here. But I love embroidery. It's can be so relaxing. There's evidence that shows it releases the endorphins and the happy hormones when you're
Let me ask
that
a couple
repetitive
questions
stitching.
for you.
Yeah.
So, as someone, yes, I run a trade show. I'm in the community of crafters. I do not knit. I do not crochet yet. These are skills that I do need to personally take time to learn.
Yeah.
But when specifically this skill, embroidery, is this easy? Is it hard? Is it really open to everyone? Can you get in as a novice, or is this a activity that you can start with your kids and one end of the scale, and then you can really, we'll say, get deep in the twine for finding an analogy there, right? And just get really sophisticated with it. Like, how difficult is it to jump into this, right? Like jumping in the quilt world and saying, I'm going to start using a long arm quilting machine. Probably not your entry into the craft. But what about this? What about this hand embroidery topic?
I think it's one of the easiest crafts to get into. Maybe besides crochet, I don't know much about knitting, but embroidery, you need the basics are a needle, a thread, and a piece of fabric. You don't even need a hoop. So I
Take
think
it on a plane.
you can take it on a plane. I take mine everywhere. I take them to coffee shops. I teach workshops, so I've taught younger kids, probably like 8 to 10 in a workshop. It crosses generations, and I think that's the great thing about crafting in general is that it's one thing it's like a common ground. You come together. Younger generations can learn from older generations. It's a craft that's passed on from,
And the time commitment for people. Like some people, again,
yeah,
if you're new in the space, if you look at us, like I look at items, I'm like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. And like, oh yeah, that took like, I'm like, how long would that take me to make that scarf? And they're like, me, it takes like a professional, I can
yeah,
do it in 2 weeks. You, 6 months.
yeah,
And I like, what is like for someone getting into this again, like if we're thinking of educating shop owners who maybe don't carry these items in their store, but because we're very prime timed for coming into holiday sales,
yeah,
and this book comes out in a time frame that is again aligned with this. So when you're thinking of your holiday giving season, whether it's a coworker in the office to a family member for whatever holiday you may celebrate, it seems like this would be at a good price point because it's a nice add-on. And the book is probably at a price that, again, it's a beautiful book. You could probably stand alone, just as pretty pictures.
yeah.
But then you can then take the next step and experience the art, particularly if you're saying, hey, you're going on a cruise. Well, hey, take this book. Here's a kit, and off you go because your sewing machine is not going to travel with you.
Exactly. It's yeah, you are exactly right. You can take embroidery anywhere. And that, traveling on a plane, there's special scissors you can take, or you can even use like dental floss cutter to cut your threads if you don't want to take a scissor. But yeah, the book, the reason, I guess a couple of things, florals, everybody has a birthday. Most people love florals. If you don't like flowers, I don't know. I think there might be some. But yeah, the book, it's for everybody. I think There are projects in here that are more simple. There are projects that are more complicated. And like you said, you can start small and just as your skill level grows, you can just keep going and going and like more is more and you can
Mhm.
add on to that. There in the book, there are in the beginning, there are lessons that show you how to transfer the patterns, how to do the stitches. And I think that's one thing with this book, you get all the patterns in the back too. So you can transfer it. I'm hoping to do some kits to go along with it as well,
Okay.
or at least printed fabric. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but yeah, embroidery is for everybody and it's just something that brings people together and that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
for me, like the comment that where I was going with this is right is educating the retail community. E-commerce stores tend to be, look, they cover everything. It's e-commerce. They're just digital listings. When we talk about our content creators that come to the show, they can be a little more specific to a field of art because they're showcasing a skill. But when you're looking at local brick and mortar stores, like I do myself, when I do visit my local retailers here, you know, and I think what the power of H&H as a trade show, as a community, as a sourcing platform, it's reminding customers that even though you might be a quilt shop or a yarn shop, there are those people that knit and crochet do take a break. So when they take a break, they're still crafting. So do you want to give up that sale or not? You know, and your company in particular, right? Like you have stickers, we have cards, you have paper items. Again, all these things so that when a customer is coming in, you might be able to, what I affectionately, the supersize, right? McDonald's is the king of, would you like fries with that? Would you
Yeah.
like to supersize that today? So when you come into the
Yeah.
store, you just bought a basket of stuff. Hey, would you like a nice gift card to go with that? And it happens to go with the motif of the book that you're buying, or
Yeah.
it's by the same artist, so it'll have the same characteristics. Or again, you bought the book, so maybe you're buying thread. Maybe you want the book. Maybe you want a kit because you want it to be easy the first time. You want to just grab a bag and you just want to make that. Or again, it's that gift giving experience where now with the retail universe, like we did lose a mass market retailer, affected the fabric side more than our knitting, our yarn side. But those customers, it's not that the sales have gone away, the customer's going somewhere.
Yeah, they're looking for smaller makers, I think, or just something to craft with. And I think exactly what you said. It's like you can buy the book, you can find a pattern in here that you want to make. You can look at the thread guide. Oh, I want to make this iris for February. It's like my friend's birthday is in February. The shop they carry threads. So, oh, I'm going to buy, these 9 colors of threads. Oh, I need some fabric. So, like you're saying, I think if shops want to buy the book, then it's like, oh, you could make, merchandising ideas. You could put together a little collection of threads or fabrics that here's a little packet. Even if I don't make the kits and you don't buy the kits, the shops can kind of merchandise around monthly projects for the book. And I mean, this could carry you projects throughout the entire year.
Very nice.
I think that's the good point where it's like, yeah, would you like fries with that? Would you like
Yeah.
some CMC thread with that?
Look, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is invented. So, not
Yeah.
that every idea is a good idea, but there have been some very smart marketers in other industries that we can take best practices from. Like, I do quite often use analogies like to American Express. The membership has its privileges. I love that tagline, right? You join the H&H trade show and you join our community. Well, that membership has its privilege. What is the privilege? It's the networking, it's the community, it's the education, right? You can do it,
Connection.
and you can do that all along, whether you have a membership, a email membership for your store. What does that mean? You get monthly updates, monthly invitations to classes, maybe a coupon from your store, and it's a building that it's a privilege. We're privileged to have you as our customer, but as the same respect and back, the respect goes in both directions,
Yeah.
right? Because the customer respects that you're going to give them good stuff. And when you give them information, they can trust you that it's good information. And then they'll keep coming back to that. I want to come back to a point that you brought up. You said how you started in trade shows and like even the idea of meeting the publisher started at a trade show. for your business, why I like in the land, like we're doing this over Zoom, right? Like, can't business just be done online? Like, why do you invest in yourself and your business in going to these live platforms? Because it's not a cheap experience, right? It's a time commitment and a hard dollar commitment. So if you could share a little bit why.
Yeah. I don't know. I love going to trade shows. I work at home by myself. My partner, he's a nurse practitioner. He works out of the house. I have the two dogs. I'm here, just working away. I love trade shows because I mean it was kind of like the start of my career. But like you said, you connect with your peers, you connect with buyers, you connect. It's for me, it definitely is an investment in money and resources. You can pay a couple $1,000 up to $10,000 to do a trade show, depending on where you're going. You need a place to stay, you need to eat, you need to travel. But for me, all of that, it's an investment in my business and also in my creativity because yes, I'm exhibiting, I'm selling wholesale at trade shows, but I'm also seeing my friends. I know a lot of people that are also embroiderers and knitters and crafters, and we all have like small businesses. And it's more of like community over competition at these shows, especially H&H. I had such a great experience. It's like we're all helping each other out, even though we're quote unquote competition with each other. We all do different things and we all have different takes on what we do. I might, my friend Stephanie might do embroidery kits, but what we do is so different. And the artwork that we put out there and the connections that we make.
To me, the value is just getting people in, right? So
Yeah.
as long as people are crafting, okay, that's challenge one, which is probably the hardest part of the problem. Then you could take the next step of your brand versus another brand. Like, what's your story? It's grandmother's patterns, like whatever the story is that you're
Yeah.
selling, right? Everyone has their unique selling points, whether it's some hand dyed, organic, historical, trend. But the number one thing we all have to remember is the job of all of us is to just get people in, and then we can fight over who gets the final sale. But
Yeah.
we need to make the ocean continually to make the ocean bigger because there is a historic trend. There's a thought that our typical demographic is older and our typical demographic is non-renewable, meaning it stays this older skew. But the reality is, like, if you go on TikTok,
It's
if you go
changing.
on Instagram, and you go on YouTube, and you go on other platforms, you will quickly find out that there is young generations of people who are just, they may not know that they're doing embroidery, but they seem to be hand stitching something on a t-shirt,
Yeah. Or
right? Like,
customizing something. It's like,
yes.
yeah, each generation has their own kind of use for embroidery or self-expression. And I want to go back to one thing that you said about, getting a sale at these shows. If a buyer comes to me and they're looking for something that I don't have, I will certainly send them to, my friend Zoe or my friend Jenny. Like, oh, you should go check out the Jumug and Darlin's cross stitch kits. I think there's a lot of that going on at the shows too. So
Mhm.
it's not just like we're sharks like fighting for every sale, which is I definitely want the sales. Let's be honest, we do trade
Yes.
shows to get sales for our business and grow the community. But I also love when I can connect buyers with. I just don't want them to leave empty handed. And I mean, that's just friendship and business. It's just a good way to kind of run a show.
It's a little bit for the sake of sounding a touch religious. It's like mind, body, and spirit, right? We want your mind to be in the space. We want your spirit to be always doing the right thing, just being good to other people, right? Treat others as you want to be treated, kind of an attitude. And so mind and body, and then the spirit of it is like, look, we're just one huge community. Like,
Yeah.
it's just be friendly, be open, be collaborative, and it's like the idea of who you might not realize they're your customer, like the cosplay component that we highlighted at our events, right? Like, if you actually stop and look at what they're doing, coming back to embroidery, there's a whole lot of hand embroidery going on in those outfits, or a whole lot of hand sewing that turns into embroidery detail work on these outfits. And yet, that's not the traditional customer we think about
Mhm.
when we think of these things, but yet they may grow in their craft. They may find new things. They may take a pattern from that lovely book and say, that's a beautiful flower. And I'm going to do a Victorian themed costume or Victorian themed cosplay, but I'm going to make it unique. So I'm going to use those flower patterns in the bottom of the skirt. Like that would
Yeah.
actually be quite pretty, right? Like that would be amazing to see
That
that,
would be incredible.
right? Like that would be a lovely collaboration between the things. So that's where it's like you never know where creativity is going to come from next, and you never know who the next rock star is going to be.
Yeah. You never
And
know where it's
that's
gonna lead you.
yes, and that's where we're really proud of. I think the community that H&H has is that everyone is open to just always thinking like, what is next? Who's coming next? How do we bring that next person to think about opening a store, becoming a designer?
Mhm.
Let me ask a very specific question, and it's focusing on your experiences at H&H, right? Like when you, from whether a kind of combination of things, anything from when you first came to the last visit, because you've been there a few years, to more importantly, whether it's a supplier who hasn't bought that booth yet, but really the retailer, right? Because we know there's about 20,000 brick and mortar mom and pop retailers across the country. Maybe it's down to 18,000, but there's still tens of thousands of these shops. But we have to convince them to invest in themselves, in their, them as a person to grow, and through education that we offer, to grow through knowing you're not alone with these problems. Everybody has tariffs to deal with. Everyone's got marketing problems. All mom and pops face big mass market retailers. Like you might find out how is everyone doing it. What advice or what would you say to those people if you had the chance of like why you made the jump and made the investment, and how would you convince them to say join you?
I will say I've done quite a few different types of trade shows, from bookstore shows to greeting card shows to just like general wholesale shows. And the one thing that I love about H&H and I find interesting is that it's a niche show, but it's also very broad within the category and the industry. So if you've got a shop and you sell yarn, there's a there's such a broad array of exhibitors at the show where I think you could build little stories within your shop. Like, okay, here's yarns, but oh, Amy's got this book and she's got greeting cards that kind of coordinate with the floral design. So, and then embroidery kit. So you can build merchandise, you build your stories just by shopping the show and learning from other retailers. Like you said, there's lots of opportunities for education, which as an exhibitor, I wasn't able to go to like everything I wanted to do. There's so much to do from, I think, a retailer standpoint. And even if you're not really sure like what you're looking for, you will get so many ideas just being around all of this product and all of the creative people at the show and just talking to other retailers. From an exhibitor standpoint, so 2025 was my first show actually.
Okay.
I tried to do it a few years ago, but financially I was like, I just can't do it. And I dropped out. But this was the first time I did the show. And because I have such a broad array of product, I got a double booth. So I think
Mhm.
it's like 20 by 5 by 20. So I can bring everything that I have. And it's interesting to see how people or buyers would buy within my collections. They would buy greeting cards and embroidery kits and, my notebooks and building different stories. So I think as an exhibitor, if it's something you definitely wanna be in the creative space. I don't think it's a show where it's like, if you only sell greeting cards, it might not be the show for you, but if you have a focus of creativity and craft, I think it's a great show to come to.
And what I've been of the types of companies that come, one, I'm always amazed. And when I get the chance to talk, scream into the crowds because I like to yell. I might, yep, my children will say that too. I like to yell. But when you go in, because whether you're coming from Hawaii and Serbia and Croatia and all part, New Zealand, Australia, like it's just amazing where people come from. And I think that's another unique thing in what learning, because you get to hear from them, but then also what is retail like in their countries? How are they displaying products? But we've been seeing a growth like in the gift shop and the museum shops. We've all been through them, right? Like if you ever been to if you ever been to a museum, you can't get out of the building without walking through the shop. But what
Get
we're
through the gift
finding,
shop.
yes, but when you go and you actually stop in the gift shop, you start to look, it's like, huh, they have gift cards. Wait a minute. They've got a felting kit of the Screaming Van Gogh because it's a Van Gogh exhibit going on. They
Mhm.
might have a paper scrapbooking project. They may have an embroidery kit. These stores that would say be non-traditional retailers to a typical yarn or quilting or needlepoint shop, they want these products because they need to round that. And they really, unfortunate for us, they can't find them in other places. So this is kind of a shout out to those kinds of stores. Or if you're like, everyone has a party they got to go to, like how many more times can you bring in the bottle of wine? Or you have a girlfriend or a male friend, whatever, that's has a celebration coming up and you want to bring them the gift. Like how many different tea towels can you bring them? How many times can you use them? But again, these products at your typical gift shop, again, add those a little something to be slightly unique or to actually show that you know your friend, right? Like your friend makes crafts. You just don't have to bring them yet another wine bottle and there's 18 bottles of the same $12 wine that we all bought at the supermarket. My wife just had a party and we literally got, I think she got 15 bottles of wine and they're all give or take this range, the same kind of generic range because you say, oh, I'm going to spend X on my friend. But if you know them, what a unique, lovely gift you can give them.
Yeah, their hobbies and crafts. One thing I'll say, just going back to H&H and making connections there, I, as an exhibitor, I'll show you my notebook, but I keep a notebook for every show and I collect business cards and I take notes, buyers that I meet. But because I'm an illustrator and I also do some freelance work, I went early one day and I met with companies who do like fabric companies who are potentially looking for
Mhm.
artists for new collections. And so I made over about 80 connections
Oh, wow.
that I have in my notebook, not just buyers, but I connected with needle makers. Like there was someone who was making needles in India as a supplier. So you're not just making sales at the show. Like for me, it's not just making sales. I was making connections with other suppliers and like Checkers was there and I think my publisher is going to be there at the next show. So if you're an exhibitor or even a buyer walking the show, don't just go into it looking like, "Oh, I'm going to make a sale or I'm going to buy these things." If you have other interests, if you freelance, it could be a good opportunity to come to the show and make connections there. If you're an artist, bring your portfolio, like a little lookbook to hand out. It doesn't have to be some big black portfolio. Just bring a couple of printy pieces if you want to make connections with
Mhm.
creative directors, art directors. They're all there.
Wonderful. I know you
Yeah.
shared earlier before we got on this into this conversation. So we said the book comes out when and
The book
where and
coming
how.
Okay, the book publishes on December 2nd. The publisher is Quarto and what do you call it? The imprint, the publisher is Quarto Books and the imprint is Walter Foster. It's currently available for pre-sales. I can link in the show notes. So if you want to buy a copy of the book, pre-order, we'll put links there. If you pre-order now, you can get a couple of free downloads. There's a couple of February patterns that you can download so you can get an early start. If you're a retailer and you'd like to carry the book in your shop, whether you're a bookstore, a craft store, museum store, we'll put the links in the show notes as well. Currently, you can pre-order on bookshop.org. It's available at Barnes and Noble, Amazon. I think it's available for pre-order at Target.com, Walmart.com. So it's getting out there. So I hope everybody enjoys it. Like you said earlier, I think it's going to be a great gift giving piece for the holidays. You can put like a nice little gift together with some threads and some fabric for your your friend or your relative. I'm just so proud of it. And it was a lot of work. And if anybody ever wants to talk about, if you're ever interested in making a book, writing a book, illustrating a book, I'm happy to share my experience. It was a roller coaster. It was a lot of emotional ups and downs.
We actually had that topic of, can't even remember what year it was. You can see the video on the H&H Connect platform. Just go back, look for the videos.
Okay.
There's a panel discussion on getting published. So that if you have ideas and you have original ideas and you're making things, like taking that idea all the way through this print medium thing. I think the world, sometimes we think, does anybody want print anymore? Maybe because I'm old. Yes. You do want print, like looking at that book in a digital format. Sure, it's pretty. You can probably flip through some kind of virtual PDF version on an iPad, but there's something to the tactile piece, or keeping the page open, or as you say, if you want, pull that page out so you can copy and use that design as your starting piece, right? So you can actually follow the guide.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's really like, being quote unquote old. It's just analog. I think a lot of people like analog things. We like paper. It's very
Mhm.
tactile. I think also everything is so digital now. It's like having a book and like fabric to touch and just that tactile feeling. With the book you can make notes. You can, like you said, you can like bookmark, and I think the book, it's like a living thing, so you can make your notes. If you want to use different colors of thread, you can mark it up. But yeah, I think people do want paper things. I do.
Barnes and Noble's coming back. They just opened 2 stores in the Chicago area that I
Yeah, they
noticed.
have
Yeah.
a lot of new stores are opening up.
Yeah. So I mean, what's old is new, what's new is old. So it's a never-ending cycle.
And I think also with book talk, on TikTok, there's just been such a growth in people reading and buying books. I think it's great. And that's the thing I love about H&H too. There's a whole book. I don't know what you call it. It's like a book section where people can go and buy books.
Yeah. So in the show itself, so different publishers have their own booth, as that's an option for them. But then we do work with a woman who's an independent book rep. And so with her, we have a independent book publishers pavilion. So you can, if you have a single title or 2 titles, it's $99 to put a book in there. You then can be present to promote your book, or you then work directly with this independent book rep who will help you at the show, whether it's collecting cards and leads, or because that's what she does. She's a book rep.
Oh, that's great.
We kind of get out of the middle. We do the introduction, and then maybe there's a business relationship to be had, because many people don't know she's even there and around.
Yeah.
And she works for many of the different publishers as well. So she's quite well known, and I think she does a good job for us, and I can only imagine she does a good job for the people that work with her. So yeah, no, it's I would say for us, we are very open to collaborations. We always encourage other authors and authors like yourself, like, what, you have a book, let's plan a book signing. Like, if you have a booth, then great. Be in your booth. Tell us when you're going to be there signing books. People can come get a book from you and get an actual signature from the author, right? If you don't have a book, if you don't have a booth yourself, then maybe it's through one of the publishers that are there, work it through them, right? It's mutually beneficial to create entertainment.
Okay.
And people want to meet their fans, right? Like, everybody wants to meet their favorite author, their favorite designer, their favorite artist, their favorite whatever. People like to celebrate them. So whether it's in a wholesale environment like H&H Americas, or some of the new things we're doing at our consumer show, where end user consumers will have same type of opportunities, that we're really looking forward to hosting authors and creators, and we'll say the celebrities of the crafting world, so they can actually meet their fans face to face and say thank you for following me, and thank you for buying my books, and thank you for buying what I put out there, meaning watching my
Yeah,
YouTube so I could make my money on the watches, right? Like, that's the whole point of sometimes doing these things.
exactly. Yeah, that's when I did H&H this year. There were so many people that I just know from like online or different business groups that I'm in. And just to be able to meet them in person. Wow, I finally get to meet you, and you can build deeper relationships and share things with each other.
the nice part is, as much as we have our little friend there in the bottom, right? Like at the, being human and being tactile, but at the end of the day, I truly believe humans want to be human and take all the technology we have to innovate our life, make our lives easier, make our lives harder, all of those things. So sometimes I refer like we have a show that is business to business or B2B would be the acronym of it. But I also truly would say it's H to H, human to human. That is as
Exactly.
important
Yeah.
to remember that we're all humans in the same room. Yes, over the same period of time, sharing and collaborating and inspiring one another.
Yeah. There's humans behind every business out there and everything we do. So just gotta be kind to each other and support each other as best we can and keep going.
Yes. With that, I'm going to say thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you sharing your story, your background, your new book that's coming up. So again, to everyone, don't forget, check out the show notes for the links. There'll be one for if you're interested in just buying a single copy as a direct one-off. If you're a business and we're looking for more of a wholesale channel, that link will also be down below. We'll also include Amy's direct links to her website so you can see the rest of her work and the rest of her offerings. And we look forward to seeing you next year. I can't believe we're in that point where we're always saying we'll see you next year kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
we're at the end of October. But again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. And I will see you in May in Chicago.
If you're interested in Amy's new book or want to carry it in your store, check out the links in our show notes. You'll also find ways to connect with her directly and explore more of her work. And if you haven't yet been to H plus H Americas, what are you waiting for? It's more than a trade show, it's a creative ecosystem, a business incubator, and yes, a place where handshakes still matter. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time right here on H plus H Connect. Until then, stay creative, stay connected, and we'll see you in Chicago this May.
Every thread begins with a spark, a single idea, a simple stitch that connects us all. From quilters and garment makers to cosplay creators and upcyclers, every maker's story starts right here. Together, we craft not just with our hands, but with our hearts, sharing skills, celebrating creativity, building a community that inspires the world. This is where ideas take shape and possibilities unfold. Hundreds of classes, hundreds of brands, one extraordinary experience. Powered by our presenting sponsor, Synchrony Bank. Quilters, sewists, makers of every kind. This is your moment to shine, to learn, to share, to create without limits. Join us at the Midwest's largest craft gathering, the Fiber Plus Fabric Craft Festival, April 30th to May 3rd, 2026 in Rosamond, Illinois. Craft your passion, celebrate creativity.